Hello everyone, this is Sanjay Parashar. Welcome back to the channel, and today we will be talking about the database adapter and the operation that is called query by example of database adapter, which is used to select data from the database table based on the inputs that we provide to the service or the database adapter. So whenever we deal with database adapters, first we need to configure certain details into the web logic. We need to create data source JNDI. We also need to create outbound connection pool JNDI, so that the code that we will be developing in JDeveloper that should be able to connect to the web logic, and based on data source, web logic will be able to connect to the database, and we can interact with the table, procedures, functions, whatever the metadata that we want to interact with, which within that Oracle database or any other database. So we have already covered how to create artifacts in WebLogic related to the database. So I will provide a link of that video in description and also on the top of the screen somewhere. So you can click on that and you can check how to create artifacts, how to configure your WebLogic in order to use database adapter. So if you don't know that, I highly recommend you guys to first learn how you can configure your WebLogic, and then you can watch this particular video. So I have already created an outbound connection pool JNDI and have configured data source JNDI. So this will be my outbound connection pool JNDI, and this will be my table right here. Table is called employee record, which at the moment has 3 records. So the agenda of this tutorial or of this demo will be using the query by example. Based on employee ID, we will try and select all the other columns. So let's start with the development now. So I'm going to create a project. So I have created a project named query by example, and we will start with the database adapter configurations. Here I will give the outbound connection pool JNDI. I think previously we did a demo on call stored procedure, and today we are covering a different operation. So this was the first video that we created based on database. I think that was session number 10, part 2. Part 1 was where we configured all the WebLogic configurations. So if you want to know how you can call a stored procedure, please check that video out, and I will put a link in the description, also on the top of the screen. And this is what we want to do today, query by example. This works something similar to select operation. It's just in select you'll have to manually give the parameters, and query by example will give you all the parameters. Whatever parameter that you will map will be added to the where clause of the query. You will see once we will be testing this service after the development. So query by example, we'll click on next. We will select the table that we want. We want to query this table. So this employee record table has the employee ID as a primary key, so that is auto selected, and whatever columns that you want to select, you can check those columns. So I want to select everything, so all the columns are checked. I'll click on next, and this is where you can give certain operations based on your text, number or date. So it's up to you which one you want to use based on your business logic. So I'm going to keep them as default. I'll click on next, next and finish. So our database adapter is configured. Now we will create a BPEL and expose that as a SOAP service for user to be able to give the employee ID. Rather than creating my own schema, I want to use the schema that automatically got created based on the table. So this is one I will be using as an input, and this I can use as an output. So let's do that. However, it's not a recommended practice. Recommended practice is that you create your own schema and then use that into BPEL so that it will be easily customizable. You will not have to rely on table and stuff like that. So, but just to save some time, I'm going to use the same schema here. I want that to be synchronous process, and here so the basic structure of my service is ready. Now I need to implement the business logic. I want to invoke this partner link, which is query by example demo. I'll create an input variable and output variable. So with query by example operation, the good part is that we do not have to explicitly define any parameter. Everything that is there, all the columns that are there in the table will be here as an input variable of it to be mapped. The number of columns that you will map as an input variable, they will add on to the where clause with the AND operator. So let's assign the input variable. Here to this, so if I assign only the employee ID, the query will be select star from table where employee ID is whatever user gives. If I assign employee name also, then the query will be select star from employee record where employee ID is this and employee name is this. So similarly, if we want to add other columns as well, we can do that. At the same time, if the same thing that we want to achieve with select operation, then we'll have to define all the parameters explicitly, and then we will need to define all the parameters there in the where clause, and then it will work. So I personally prefer query by example over the straightforward select operation. So for this demo, I'll just want to use employee ID here because it is anyways a primary key. So apply, okay, and let me assign the output also. So now based on the logic that we have given, we know that one employee ID can only have one record in the table because that's a primary key. It cannot be duplicated. So we know that one record will be fetched. However, this operation is totally capable of handling multiple records at the same time. That's why you can see that employee record, this maxoccur is unbound, and we can have multiple records here. But the business logic that we have set up as of now, only one record will be fetched at one point of time. However, as we have used the same sort of schema, we can simply add this payload to payload, and even if now we change the logic and have multiple records, that will also be handled, because all the names and everything are identical because we have used the same schema. So I'm just going to apply this and I'm going to deploy it. So our service has been successfully deployed. So let's test it. This is the service which is deployed under the default folder. Let's test it. And as per our database, let's give the employee ID as 1001. Here, as we can see, that employee ID is a mandatory field because it was a primary key, and all other three are non-mandate fields, so we don't have to give. And as we can see, we got one record, and that record is Sanjay Parashar. So just for the demonstration purpose, I'll tell you how easy it is to modify it on runtime. Suppose if we had select operator there, and we have added select operation there, and we had added a parameter as employee ID, and if we got a requirement that now we do not want to select data using the employee ID, we want to select data based on name, at that time it would have been very difficult because we will need to actually modify the adapter, give a different parameter and edit the query altogether. But here with this query by example, it becomes very easy for us. Here I'll just, in this input, I'll map this and I'll remove this ID. So now our query will become select star from something where employee name is this. So let's apply this. I'm going to deploy it. And meanwhile, when it is deploying, let's add another employee name here, which will be the same, so that we can get two outputs, or the two rows can be fetched. So let me just insert a record here. So employee ID has to be unique because it's a primary key. So for Sanjay Parashar, so one row inserted. Let me commit this, and here we have two employee IDs and employee name is same. So we will be querying with employee name, and we should be getting result with two rows. So let's test it. So yes, our service is deployed, and now let's test it. As this is a mandatory field, we'll have to give this field. However, we are not using this field in where clause, so it doesn't matter what we give here. All will matter is what we give here. And as we can see, two records are fetched here, employee ID 1001 and 1004. So this is it, guys. This is it for the query by example operation. If you want me to cover more operations of database adapter or any other adapter, you please do let me know. I will be more than happy to cover that. And also, if you have any queries or any suggestions, you can either comment or you can also drop me an email. My email address is mentioned in the description box. and you take good care of yourselves. Thank you for your time. You have a nice rest of the day. Take care. Bye bye.